Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Ascension Teachings. I'm your host Peter Maxwell Slattery, and the last episode we finished off with the clearing, but what were we talking about before that? We're going into artificial intelligence and these obelisks and pyramids on the earth that are working for the artificial intelligence. Now, I'm not talking about the Egyptian pyramids and things of that nature and what we see in Mexico and around the world, even here in Australia. I'm talking about the obelisks, meaning these ones that represent war, and these modern structures like shopping centres and things of that nature. The ancient ones, they were these devices that I was speaking about in the last episode, meaning they were multi-dimensional devices. They were stargates. They were portals where you could bilocate to other places. They had healing properties. They were free energy devices. There was many different implications from those devices with what they could do. So from the Shiji material, let's go into a bit more there. Many are waiting for change. Some beings are floating throughout space in huge motherships with entire ecosystems. Some are having adventures and exploring, looking for a place to create a new civilization, although some are in this situation because they have outlived their home world or worlds. The situation of these beings are different, but all of them are ready for the next level. Although, like you, the lower light is affecting them as well. So what we're seeing here is not just are we being affected by the artificial intelligence in this lower light. There are many other civilizations out there that are even more advanced than us at this time that have been affected by the lower light, the artificial intelligence, and this whole network. So we're not alone here. Now, why these beings just can't jump in and fix everything is we can't be codependent on them, and they can't be codependent on us. We've got to earn this ourselves. But once we get to a certain level of consciousness, we can join together, and that's what they've done in the higher realms. They've banded together to try and rectify these situations that are going on. So let's go into this a little bit more. They have a grid around Earth in your solar system, which includes the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So what's this talking about? Now, what I want to talk about is just a couple of quick, trippy facts about the Moon. So, when they landed on the Moon during the Apollo missions, it reverberated like a bell for over an hour. I remember hearing this from Richard C. Hoagland on an Art Bell episode. What's even more trippier about all this is that when they put enough seismographs on the Moon, they were basically able to get like a CAT scan of the Moon, and what they could see 1,000 miles underneath the surface, pretty much directly in the middle of the Moon, is that there is geometric arc-shaped objects. Now, what does that mean? Well, nature, we do see geometry in nature and certain sort of patterns. But when we're looking down at the surface of a place or looking inside of it, it's sort of pretty uncommon to see perfect geometric structures, which is what we see in our buildings when we build things. When we look down on cities, we actually see these perfect lines and 90-degree angles and different types of angles, but it's, got geometry to it. It's not natural. So what's even trippier is when they got core samples on the Moon, what was found is that below the surface, going down a bit, it had proved that the Moon had been exposed to a different sun or star, depending on how you want to term it. So what does that mean? Well, the only logical conclusion to come to on that is that the Moon was brought here from elsewhere. So we've got a lot going on here. I can remember going back to one of the Eisenhower documents. Now, don't quote me, I can't remember which moon it was or satellite, but they'll even saying that they believe that was artificially made as well. So some of these are actually natural objects that have been manipulated and turned into a type of craft or a device, and some of them could actually be space station type of devices. So it really opens things up a lot more. And what we see here as well is that there seems to be perfect geometric patterns that we can sometimes see on some of these moons, which show that there could be bases or that it itself could be an artificially made device. Going into something even more trippier now, and a lot of this information probably you all know, some of it you might not, but what we'll go into now is the Ringmakers of Saturn book by Norman R. Bergram. Now, he's got a huge list of credentials. He worked in a lot of these projects to do with space and science and technology. Huge credentials. And the Ring Makers of Saturn book has been pretty popular because in it was produced photos that show some type of device in the rings of Saturn, which some theorise that is actually what's making the rings. But on top of what's going on, we see the universe fighting back through its own evolution. As I spoke about in previous episodes, is that what happens in the middle of this galaxy affects our sun and all stars, and then that affects their local system, meaning planets and satellites. So at the moment, we're actually seeing a lot of stuff happening here in terms of the whole solar system heating up. Now, that's not to say that climate change is real to the extent that they're saying. I don't believe that. Now, of course, CO2 emissions and what's happening with, farming and cars and all these types of things, it's not helping the cause by any means. It's obsolete technology, what we've got at the moment. It's ridiculous, even Tesla cars. It's great, better than what we've had. But to tell you the truth, we've had these technologies going back 50, 60, 70, 80 years that surpass anything we're using today, that are hidden from the public. And these are the type of things that got no emissions. They are tapping into 0 point energy, and we could all be living with everything that we need, which is what they do in the Star Nations. In the Star Nations, what happens is people they've got a knowingness and awareness, even their families, when beings are born or incarnated into that civilization, it's known what they're passionate about. And that's what they do for a living. There's still education. They can still go and pursue certain dreams and do certain things that they'll love to do that they've never done before. But what happens is certain types of droids, robots, drones, they've got the menial jobs like cleaners and maintenance and certain things like that, and everyone pursues and has a balance with spirituality, technology, education, and they contribute to their civilization through doing what they're passionate about. So I just wanted to add that there, but what we'll do is we'll look at what's happening at the sun at the moment, what we're seeing from many images around the world, which is these UFOs. Now, what we're seeing here is advanced technologies. Now, to us in third density with the technology that we've got, we would burn up. But these crafts are operating in a field, anti-gravity field, and some of them have got tachyon propulsions and different forms of propulsions. Beings in their Merkaba could go right up to that and it wouldn't even harm them. And on top of that, our sun is actually a portal from the information that I've got. So we're seeing a lot of ships coming in and going into the sun, and that's what's happening. It's a portal. But they're also assisting us beings from outside, and the whole solar system is populated as well. There's many civilizations and beings, whether in this density or other densities that we actually can't see, on other planetary bodies and satellites throughout the solar system. So there's a hell of a lot going on there, that's for sure. But what we're seeing is assistance from the Star Nations, minimizing and blocking some of this, but they can only do so much. Here's another image here of an amazing craft found near the sun. And what's happening from the sun's activity affects us here on Earth. So what are we seeing? We're seeing the biggest, F5 tornadoes, which going back to, I even think the 90s, they thought, it's possible, but now we're seeing them a bit more frequently. And I don't think they'd seen it before that in modern times. So we rarely get them in Australia, but I love the movie Twister. It's one of my favourites. Also, look at what's happening. We're getting tsunamis, crazy tsunamis happening around the planet. And so we haven't seen them on this scale for a very long time as well in modern times. Also, we're seeing huge cyclones, hurricanes and typhoons. It's all got a chain reaction with what happens in the center of the galaxy affecting our star. Then that affects the planets. And these are the byproducts of what happens. And also, all that's really a byproduct from earthquakes. What happens is when these energies come through, it's shifting the tectonic plates. And what happens when that happens? What we're talking about right now, all these different disasters. And it's really a cleansing of Earth, Gaia, Mother Earth, cleansing herself with the reaction with the Father, the Son. Sound like a Catholic priest now, don't I? Anyway, so let's get into the Shija material a bit more. Constant changes are happening on every level, including Earth changes and changes in the planets, moons and stars. Your whole solar system, galaxy and other galaxies close, far and beyond are being affected. It's happening everywhere, not just here, local to us. The sun also affects humans electromagnetically. There's byproducts of paranoia, hallucinations, anxiety, there's huge different things that can happen when around high EMF fields that are byproducts. So if you imagine the sun when it's giving off these fields, what's happening to Earth? Usually what I see is, I look at spaceweather.com, and what I see is usually 2 to 3 days after the solar flare, or even electromagnetic storms, or solar storms, I see people with the head down walking into other people. I see people that are very moody, upset, certain things like that. And these are byproducts from what the sun is doing. Now, myself, it usually happens within a day after that. And I find that most people that are sensitive, they feel the effects a lot quicker, and then it dies down by the time it's hitting everyone else. And you sort of just sit back and go, all right, let's chill for a few days. So I just thought I would add in my 2 cents there. Now, let's go on with the Shiji material. Everything necessary is happening to help with the transition and to help with the distribution of energy over Gaia and elsewhere, resulting from the vibrational change that is occurring. Because of the energy in the galactic plane, every planet in the solar system is being affected. So they're talking about what's happening in the center of the galaxy here. From this, the energy causes the tectonic plates to shift, which heats up your oceans, and the volcanoes are going off under them. Everything is heating up because of the change in energy, and one sign of this change is the exploding volcanoes. And it's not just happening on your planet, so it's not, again, just local to us. It's happening in a lot of different places. Now, coming back to the Lyrians, we're going into more modern times now. So what we've done is we've set up what's happening from the creation of this reality, what's local to us, meaning Lyra, Orion, Sirius, the wars there, and them coming to Earth and some of the Earth changes. So I'm trying to build a bit of a picture here. It's a bit over the map because everything is interconnected. And so what I'd like to do now is go into more modern times, though this is still ancient times, I guess, compared to a lot. And I know that there was beings coming back here a few billion years ago as well, around 2.5 to 3 billion years ago. But here we go now into the Lyrians and them coming here 20 million years ago, or around that time frame, up to 500,000 years ago, putting outposts. And that is when they started to stay here for some time. So from the Shiji material, descendants of the Lyrians still had a strong hold on Earth and the solar system. After arriving here around 20 million years ago, they created a huge civilization on Earth about 500,000 years ago and manipulated the first beings here through thought. They mixed themselves with these beings. In time, the Pleiadians did this too. So it's going to get trippier. Many civilizations grew and fell time and time again. Then about 380,000 years ago, the reptilians arrived on Earth. About 230,000 years ago, a group of Pleiadians came across the civilizations of their ancestors here, meaning the Lyrians, and monitored what was going on. It was known by those in the councils that the reptilians were manipulating the humans on Earth with assistance from the artificial intelligence. At one time, there was an agreement that allowed the reptilians to be here and get along with the humans. So they were given custodianship for a little bit of time. And what screwed that up was this. When the manipulation was understood and it was seen, a ship with a collective of beings came here to visit and confront the situation, which had been agreed to by the councils and the reptilians. It was a setup. So then the reptilians came. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leave it there and start off in the next episode from here. So a bit of a cliffhanger, but here's another tip before we finish. What I'd like you to do when you've got some time is try to get a blank background, like a wall that's the same colour, not too bright of light. And what I want you to do is put your hand up, and this is a tip and technique that a lot of people do use, so some of you may have heard this before, but this can help you see the non-seen, which is slightly coming into our frequency, and I'll show evidence of this later throughout the series. So what I want you to do is get your hand up like this, and I want you to put it against a blank background and sort of defocus on the middle finger or on a finger, and just have fun with it. Don't stress too much. Sometimes people might go cross-eyed doing it, but what you'll see is a slight haze around the peripheral of your hand, or in particular a finger, and what you're seeing is you tapping into your energetic field, the aura, which is a lot bigger than what you can see, but the more that you can tune into it and exercise it, you'll be able to see it more and more, and it just takes practice. So have fun with that, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Ascension Teachings. I'm your host, Peter Maxwell Slattery, and I'll see you on the next episode.